the TurboGrafx-16 introduced the world to 16-bit gaming power. Despite this fact, it did not catch on in the United States the way that it did in its home country of Japan. Looking back at the TurboGrafx-16, how does its library compare against its other 16-bit competitors, the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo Entertainment System? Well, today we're going to find out as we take a look at the top 25 most valuable TurboGrafx-16 games. What's up, Internet? I'm Technohead, and welcome back to my channel. This is the next episode in my series of videos called Pixels to Polygons, where we're taking a look at the rising value of classic video games from systems released in the 1990s through to the early 2000s. We've already taken a look at some true classics like the Nintendo Entertainment System and the Sega Genesis, as well as some other handheld systems like the Lynx and the Nintendo Game Boy. But today we're moving into the 16-bit era with the first 16-bit home video game system, the TurboGrafx-16, also known as the PC Engine in its home country of Japan. I don't want to take too much time re-explaining how the price system works, so if you're really curious, you can go back and watch the episode on the Sega Genesis where I break down how we use the Game Dude prices from 2004 and the current prices in 2024 to determine the difference in price over the last 20 years. We also use ratings from rarityguide.com to indicate how rare the games might be and see if it has any impact on the value itself. One quick note about today's video is that Game Dude does not differentiate between the different types of games that were available for the TurboGrafx-16. That means that it'll lump in HuCard games like this copy of Alien Crush, alongside of TurboCD games like this copy of Castlevania Rondo of Blood for the PC Engine. And so I'm not going to differentiate either. That means this list is going to include both HuCard games and TurboGrafx-16 CD games. I'll try to indicate that on screen wherever possible. That's enough table setting. Let's get to the main course. Let's check out the top 25 most valuable TurboGrafx-16 games. To top off the list, we're starting off with Tricky Kick. Tricky Kick is a puzzle game for the TurboGrafx-16. It's kind of one of those games where you're sort of sliding stuff around and trying to make stuff fit. It's not a very rare game. It's only 21 on the rarity guide. Back in 2004, you would have spent $10 for a copy of Tricky Kick, but today, if you wanted to get a copy, it would be $29, and that is a 290% increase in value. That's followed up by Air Zonk. This is the HuCard version of Air Zonk. This is a very rare game for the TurboGrafx. It has a rarity guide of 70. This is sort of a spin-off of the Bonk series where you play kind of a robot version of Bonk who's flying through the air and shooting enemies, and it's one of the many shooter games we'll see on this list. Back in the day, it was $57 for a copy, but today, if you wanted to get a copy, it'd be $229. Then we've got Loom at number 23. This is a LucasArts game. It was a popular PC point-and-click adventure game, and it's been brought here to the PC Engine with kind of an early example of mouse control in a console game. This game was $32 back in the day, and today, in 2024, if you wanted to get a copy of Loom, you'd have to spend $129, and that's a 303% increase in value. Then we've got another CD game here, and just as a reminder, none of the CD games are listed on Rarity Guide, so I don't have rarities for them. This one is Last Alert, which is an overhead action game, kind of similar to like Ikara Warriors or something like that. Very violent, which some of the PC Engine games were. There's a lot of like blood and stuff like that. This game was $32 back in 2004, and today for a copy of Last Alert, it'd be $129, which is a 303% increase in value. Then we've got the big man himself coming in at number 21. This is Godzilla for the TurboGrafx CD system. This game is a rare game, and back in 2004, it was $116 for a copy of Godzilla. Today it's gone up quite a lot. If you wanted to get a copy on disc, it'd be $499 at Game Dude. That's a 330% increase in value over time. At number 20, we've got Veigus Tactical Gladiator, which is a side-scrolling mech combat game. It's a little rough around the edges, I'll have to be honest. I'd never played it before playing it for this video. It has a rarity of 36, which makes it not especially rare. It was $23 for a copy back in 2004, but today if you wanted to pick up a copy, you'd have to shell out $99, and that is a 330% increase in value. Then we've got a real classic. This was featured in magazine ads at the time. This is Lords of Thunder on CD. This game also came out for the Sega CD, but I think it's really remembered more as a Turbo CD game, just because it was featured so heavily in its advertising. Fantastic soundtrack on this game. It's a $40 game back in 2004, and today it's gone up to $179, which is a 348% increase in value for the most metal game on the TurboGrafx. That's followed up by yet another shooter. There's going to be a lot of them on this list, so get ready for that. This is Dead Moon. It has a medium rarity of 58. Dead Moon would have set you back about $32 if you tried to pick up a copy back in the day. And today, if you wanted to get the HuCard, you'd have to spend $149, which is a 366% increase in value for Dead Moon. At number 17, we've got another port of a PC game. This is the CD version of Might and Magic 3, Isles of Terra. This game was pretty pricey back in the day. It was $82 for a copy in 2004. Today, if you wanted to get a copy of Might and Magic 3, you'd have to spend $399, and that's a 387% increase in value for this game, which is a typical kind of dungeon crawling RPG. Then we've got Exile, Wicked Phenom for CD. This game is interesting. It takes place in the Middle East, maybe kind of has like a biblical vibe to it. But other than that, it's an overhead RPG style game. It was $82 for a copy back in 2004, and today it's gone up pretty considerably to $399, which is a 387% increase in value for Exile, Wicked Phenomenon. That's followed up by Dynastic Hero at number 15. This is known in some other places as Wonder Boy and Monster World. It's one of those games that's kind of wrapped up in the complicated history of Wonder Boy. But this is Dynastic Hero, the version for the TurboGrafx-CD. This game is not rated on rarity like the rest of the CD games, but it was $82 back in the day and $399 today, which is a 387% increase in value. We've got an interesting game here, Beyond Shadowgate at number 14. It's another point-and-click adventure. It has pretty interesting graphics, though, the way that it's animated. I think it looks pretty good, and I never played it before, but I'd like to go back and play it again. It reminded me of like a Sierra game or something like that. $82 for this game back in 2004. $399 today, which is a 387% increase in value for Beyond Shadowgate. Another true classic, Cotton Fantastic Knight's Dream, a great kind of cute-em-up shooter for the TurboGrafx-CD. This game is a relatively rare game, and back in 2004 it was going for $99. But today, if you wanted to get a copy of Cotton, you'd have to spend about $499, which is a 404% increase in value for this fantastic game. That's followed up by Camp California. This game is an interesting game. I'm not sure if it's based on like a licensed property, but it seems like a Saturday morning cartoon or something. It actually has Beach Boys music in the soundtrack, which is taking advantage of the CD audio there. It was $49 back in the day, but it's gone up a lot to $249 today, which is a 408% increase in value for this animal-based puzzler platform game. Then we've got a game that we saw on the Sega Genesis list too. This is Cadash, which is an arcade game ported to the TurboGrafx. This game is a rarity of 64 on rarityguide.com, and back in the day, if you wanted a copy, you would have had to spend $25 to get it. Today, if you wanted a copy, you'd have to spend $129, and that is a 416% increase in value for Cadash. We've got a kind of a typical game from the 90s. This is J.B. Harold Murder Club, kind of similar to like Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective or Snatcher or something like that, kind of a visual novel style game. This game was $15 back in the day, and today it's gone up to $79, which, while not that pricey, does give it a 427% increase in value and puts it up higher on the list than some of the rest of the games. After that, we've got New Adventure Island. This game is a rarity of 73, and it's a game that we saw on the Master System, some other places like that, but it's got kind of improved graphics for the TurboGrafx here. This game was $32 back in the day, but if you wanted a copy of New Adventure Island today, you'd have to spend $179, which is a 459% increase in value. Then we've got Shockman, which is a sequel to another game called Shockman. In Japan, this was Shockman 2, actually, but the only version that came to the US was Shockman here. It's kind of a Mega Man style game. This was $49 back in the day, and today, if you wanted to get a copy of Shockman, you'd have to spend $279, which is a 469% increase in value for Shockman. That's followed up by another shooter, another classic shooter, Soldier Blade. This game is a rare game for the TurboGrafx. It is an 82 on rarityguide.com. Now, despite that fact, back in 2004, it was only selling for $20, but that's gone up considerably today. It's now selling for $229, which is a 473% increase in value for Soldier Blade. Then at number 6, we've got Ghost Manor. Ghost Manor is a platforming kind of horror game, sort of has a Goonies vibe. I like the artwork here, although I was having a hard time figuring out exactly what to do when I was playing it for the capture here. This game is not that rare at a 35 on the Rarity Guide. It was $25 back in the day and $149 today in 2024, which is a 496% increase in value for Ghost Manor. Then we've got puzzle game Summer Assault here, which is a game that has, like, I guess it's going for an Egyptian vibe, but it also has some astrological references. It's an interesting game where you play kind of a roly-poly object and you're shooting various traps and stuff. It was $32 in 2004, and in 2024 it's going for $199, which is a 523% increase in value. Then we got the CD version of a game that we saw earlier on the list. This is Super Air Zonk on CD. It's not rated on rarityguide.com, but it was selling for $99 back in 2004. Super Air Zonk is basically the same game as Air Zonk, just with slightly better graphics and music. Today it's selling for a whopping $699 for a copy, which is a 606% increase in value. That's followed up by Sid Mead's Terraform, which is a CD game. This is another shooter for the TurboGrafx CD system. Back in 2004, this game was also selling for $99. And today, if you wanted to go into Game Dude and pick up a copy, you'd have to bring a pretty big wallet because you'd have to spend $799, which is a 707% increase in value for Sid Mead's Terraform. We got another Bonk game here at number 2. We have Bonk 3 on CD, which is a very rare game at a 94. Bonk 3 was $82 back in 2004 if you wanted a copy, and it kind of uses some amazing sprite work to make Bonk huge, as you can see in the gameplay here. This game is now going for $699, which is a 742% increase in value. And that brings us to our number 1 game. What will it be? Who will be at the top? If you guess Legend of Hero Tonma being at number 1, you'd be right. This game has a rarity of 58, and it was only selling for $32 back in 2004, which is a pretty great deal when you think about it, because today if you wanted to get a copy of Legend of Hero Tonma, you'd have to spend $799, and that is a 2,397% increase in value. And there it was, the top 25 most valuable TurboGrafx-16 games. Was there anything on this list that surprised you? Or was there anything that wasn't on the list that you would have expected to see? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know what you have to say. Thanks so much for swinging by my channel and checking out this video. We'll be back next week with more handheld goodness as we take a look at the Sega Game Gear. So, if you'd like to check out that video, make sure that you're subscribed by hitting the subscribe button and clicking on the bell icon. And as long as you're subscribing, you might as well click that like button too, because it helps out the channel and I really appreciate it. That's it for today. We'll see you next time as we take a look at the powerful handheld system, the Sega Game Gear. Until then, this is Technohead signing off.
We have guidance internal. 10, 9, 8, ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engines running, commit, liftoff. We are so sorry, 11:22 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. HuCard reports to your program.